Do you need some more time freed up every single week so you can take on that new project or spend some more time with your family or even just alleviate some of the stress and overwhelm? Look, I hear you, and that's why in this video, I'm gonna share with you 6 tips so you can save hours every single week. Hi, my name is ERIN Hayworth, and I am a goals coach and productivity strategist for online entrepreneurs. I help entrepreneurs just like you save time so they can grow their business without the burnout and overwhelm. Look, we all have the same 168 hours every single week, but the secret is making sure that you're utilizing those hours in the best way possible so that you feel more accomplished and more productive in all aspects of your life, not just your business. So these strategies that I'm getting ready to share with you, these 6 strategies, I use in my own business, in my own life every single week, and it helps me save at least 10 hours a week, if not more. So before we get started, let me know in the comments below, what would you do with an extra 5 to 10 hours a week? All right, so let's dive into these 6 tips and strategies. I'm so excited to get started. Okay, so my first tip for you is kind of a 3-for-1, but it's a good one, and I will break it all down for you. The first tip is to plan your week with themed days and time blocking. So let's break this down. Again, it's a 3-parter because it's so good. The first is to plan your week, meaning look at your week ahead of time and actually plan out what needs to happen. This seems pretty basic, right? But you'd be surprised at how many people aren't doing it or aren't doing it effectively. So on the Friday before, the Sunday before Monday, or even the Monday morning of, whenever it's going to work and when you're going to feel the most expansive and the most able to look ahead, is when I want you to sit down to do this. It does not have to take hours and hours. In fact, I usually do this in about 30 minutes to an hour every single week, just to plan out, okay, what are the obligations that I have coming up this week? What are the things that I want to get done so that I don't get to the end of the week, I'm like, what did I do all week, right? So the next part of it is to theme your days. So for example, my days, Mondays are content days. So I do nothing but create content on Mondays. On Tuesdays are development days. So that's either my own learning development, or if I am developing a new program or a new freebie or something like that, I'll actually use that day to work on those different things. Wednesdays and Thursdays are my meeting days, right? So those are when I'll do client meetings, when I will do podcast interviews, when I will do lives, whenever I will be more externally focused and working with other people, because I'm an introvert, and being out in front of people and having conversations, while I absolutely love it, it actually drains me. So I can't do it every day of the week, or else I won't have the energy that I need to do all the other things. And then Fridays are my flex days. So that basically means that depending on the week, depending on the obligations that I have, depending on how much I get done in the first 4 days of the week, those Fridays are reserved specifically for catching up on stuff, doing some admin tasks, or taking the day off. And then my weekends are for my family. Sometimes I'll do a little bit of planning, meal prepping, all of those different things. But specifically for business, Monday through Friday are the days that I kind of use. So that's what I mean by theme your days. And the reason that I do that is because there is such power in staying in one creative zone while you're in that zone, and not keep task switching. Task switching is whenever you're doing one thing and then you switch to another, and then you're trying to switch back to this thing, and it actually takes longer than if you would have just stayed focused on one thing, right? And it depletes your energy faster. Not only is it wasting your time, but it's depleting your energy faster. So theme your days. It does not have to look like what mine looks like, but if you start to kind of say, okay, well, I'm only going to take meetings 3 days a week instead of 5, see what that does. See what that does specifically for your productivity. And then the last part of this tip, number 1, is to time block. So what this means is basically, if you've got content to create, don't try to create reel video, or do a caption here for something and then do a podcast episode here. No. Batch create things, time block things where it's like, okay, in the morning when I know my creativity is the highest, I'm going to sit here and I'm going to pump out 16 captions, for my content, right? Or I'm going to batch all of my meetings together in a 4-hour block on Thursdays. Time block so that everything is not only themed for the same day, but you're using your time in the best way possible. Okay, so that's my first tip. My second tip is to use a timer. I love this one because, again, it seems so simple, but it is so transformative, because the number one thing that I hear from people is they're like, oh, I don't know how long something's going to take me. Well, the brilliant part about that is a problem you can solve, right? You can figure out how long does it take you to write an Instagram caption? How long does it take you to create or to edit a bunch of videos if you're a videographer, right? Or photos if you're a photographer? Or how long does it take you to create a new logo if you're a graphic designer, right? You actually can figure that out by just timing yourself. I also like to use a timer to motivate me to stay focused. So you may have heard of the Pomodoro technique. I absolutely use that technique whenever I'm trying to get a lot of stuff done. So usually on my content days or my development days, I'm like, okay, I'm going to see if I can get this particular task done in the next 20 to 25 minutes. I'll set a timer and I work as fast and as hard and as most effectively and efficiently as I can on that one thing. And I'm just going to be totally transparent. I get so much more done in any given day that usually my to-do list is done by like noon, 1 o'clock, and I can either add stuff to my day that I wasn't going to be able to do, or I can go do something else, right? I don't have to keep working, because I'm so much more effective whenever I don't give myself unlimited time to do anything. Because what ends up happening is if you give yourself 3 hours to film 5 YouTube videos, it's going to take you 3 hours to film 5 YouTube videos. Whereas you're like, okay, I got 20 minutes of video, go. You're going to get it done a heck of a lot quicker. Okay? So that is my second tip. My third tip is to schedule in your business tasks like you would meetings. So another big thing that I hear is, well, I had my week all planned out, but then life got in the way. Then all these other things happened, right? Just like your trainer or a health professional, health coach is going to tell you to schedule your workouts or schedule your meals or whatever it is, I'm going to tell you that meetings are not the only business obligations that you should be scheduling and blocking time for. They're still meetings. They're just meetings with yourself. Okay? So if you are going to have time set aside to work, use that time to work and work on the things that are most important to you, right? That doesn't mean that you can't be available for to be flexible and for things to change, but know what your priorities are and know what you're willing to give up and what you're not. Because if other people coming to you and saying, this is an emergency, this is an emergency, this is an emergency, whether it's clients, team members, whatever it is, and you keep setting your priorities, what you say are your priorities, aside to go and handle their emergency or handle their urgency or just answer their email, then you're doing yourself a disservice, and those things that you put over here aren't actually your priorities. I know, tough love from an Enneagram 8, but the reason I do it is so that, again, it's tough love, right? I mean it, but I mean it so that you can do something differently if you want to do something differently. You have to choose to do something differently, okay? My fourth tip for you today is to batch your content. Now, this goes along a little bit with one, a little bit with two, but it deserves its own tip because it has transformed the way that I'm able to show up on all the platforms. So right now I have this YouTube channel. I have an Instagram where I do posts, stories, lives, reels. I have a podcast. I have an email list. I do Facebook a little bit, but those kind of first four are the ones where I'm actually actively creating content on a daily and weekly basis. And I went from creating one podcast episode a week and like 2 to 3 posts a week and maybe 1 email to now I'm doing 5 reels a week. I'm doing stories every single day. I'm doing videos on YouTube. Like, I'm able to up level the amount of content and the quality of content that I'm creating, specifically because I batch create my content. Now, this again is pulling on these strategies of, again, pushing everything together. doing like things with like things. You're time blocking, okay, well now I'm gonna go work on videos, or now I'm gonna go work on reels, and having the systems behind that to make sure that whatever it is you're creating, you're then leveraging into lots of other different pieces and you're repurposing it. By the way, if you want my exact content calendar template for exactly how I create all of these things and do so in a way that stays organized, I'm able to batch create it, and then I'm able to make sure that everything gets posted and put on the right schedule and everything comes out consistently, you can actually go grab that template for free. I will link to it in the description below. Okay? So tip number 5 is to work with your own rhythms, which basically means when you are creatively at your best, when you are cognitively at your best, when you feel like you have the most bandwidth, is when you are working on the things that require the most creativity or bandwidth. Now, this is going to differ from person to person. You're going to have to use the knowledge that you have about how you best work, knowing your own rhythms, your own self-knowledge, to know when this is. For me, if I could work from 6 a.m. till 10 a.m. on the most creatively demanding and cognitively demanding aspects of what it is that I do, we would be golden. Like, that's my best time to work. And then by the afternoon, I have a little bit of energy, but you're not gonna get the absolute best out of me or the most creative or the whatever it is out of me after lunch. You're just not, because I'm drained by that point. I need a chance to kind of revamp it up a little bit, right? So knowing that, I try to get up early and do a little bit of work if I can. And then as soon as I start work, whether that's on days that I take my daughter to school or not, I am focusing on the things that are going to require the most brain power and the most creativity for me early. If you're one of those people that your creative burst comes at like 8 p.m., use that. Don't try to fit yourself into the mold that I've created just because it works for me. Just because it works for me doesn't necessarily mean it's going to work for you. The whole point of this is for you to take this inspiration and this information and actually integrate it into how you work so that it can work for you. Okay? And then my 6th and final tip, and this is kind of a 5-parter, but it's all kind of around the same idea, which is to eliminate, reduce, automate, outsource, and delegate. So basically all of those things mean is declutter your to-do list. You're gonna have so much more time to do all the things if all the things aren't your things to do, right? You know, we say you've got the same amount of time as Beyonce does. Yeah, but Beyonce has people. So find your people. Get rid of the things that don't matter. Reduce the time that you're spending on things that matter, but maybe not matter as much as some of the other things. So that's eliminate, reduce, automate. We have access to so many amazing, a lot of times free or extremely inexpensive technology now that can do the things so you don't have to do them, right? Outsource. Y'all, I have not gone grocery shopping, like a full grocery shop, in months. And it's because I pay somebody else to do it through things like Instacart or DoorDash or delivery of some sort, right? So outsource the things that aren't things that you absolutely need to be doing, right? And then delegate. There are people in your house, there are people potentially in your business that are going to have a zone of genius that you do not have, or be able to take on things so you don't have to be the one that does all of them. So this is both in business and personal aspects of what it is that you do, but lean into delegating. And delegating means getting it off your plate completely, not something that you're like, oh, I need to follow up with that person about that. Oh, I need to follow up with that person about that. You have to delegate and trust that it's going to be done. Basically, this entire tip is all about playing as much in your zone of genius as you possibly can. And it's about clearing out all of the stuff so that you can sit in and live in that zone of genius more and more and more. It's never going to be perfect, but the idea is we're working closer and closer and closer and closer to it. So the combination of these 6 tips has actually led to me saving at least 10 hours a week, sometimes even more than that, depending on the week that we're in. Here are my suggestions for exactly how to start implementing these strategies. First of all, do not try to do them all at one time. Okay, that is a recipe for overwhelm and disaster. It does not have to be an overhaul. It just has to be a small change to make a real difference. So you can do, I wouldn't say do one a day just because, again, I don't want you to get overwhelmed, but you could even try one of these every couple of days or maybe even one a week. Try implementing these one a week. And the reason I suggest that, again, is to alleviate the feeling of overwhelm on top of all the other things that you have to do, but also so you can give each one of these things a real shot, right? So if you're doing all the things at once, you don't know if you are getting increased productivity, if it's because of one thing or another or all 6 things combined. So the idea here is you test out and experiment with each one of these things to see what the results of that are. And then once you kind of find your sweet spot, you can put them all together and then see what the results of that are. The biggest thing is that you get curious and that this is not a, oh my gosh, her exact system has to work for me. It's, okay, she's giving me 6 incredible tips to try out. This is the one I'm gonna try out first. Okay, this is how it worked for me. Okay, now I'm gonna try this one. It's about getting curious about how to increase your productivity, to increase the amount that you can accomplish and the feeling of accomplishment every single day. Now that you have a little bit of extra free time, it's actually a perfect opportunity for you to maybe revisit some of your business systems and make sure that they are streamlined and serving you. So here's a video that's going to actually get you started with the 7 systems that you need in order to be a successful entrepreneur.